Today, UNH has a 2.6% movement up after sellers try to step in and break it below this overall chop range here. They try to push it down, but we do see buyers step in and push stock back into this range. So are we expecting a big move up here, getting towards the top of this range and ultimately retesting that 339 within the next couple of weeks? Or is this a false recovery and are sellers going to continue to push price down? Now, starting this analysis on the weekly time frame, guys, this stock had a very nice run up, right? We see it find some ascending support, energy is getting built up, and we see a mountain-like effect all the way within this range of 545 and 432. So we see a little bit of chop here, guys, and we go to all-time highs of 621.24, and that's where we see a major sell-off. So we get a huge move down, try to recover, finding some descending support, get a move up, but we cannot reach that 621 again. We create a lower high, and then we get that huge correction all the way down, guys, selling all the way back down to the floor of 255, right where this stock kind of picked up that steam here, right? We got above that resistance level. We saw that, had some resistance there, got above it, couldn't hold, get above it again, and that's where we see that mountain-like effect. So that's where we find that bounce, guys, and we trend up a little bit. We see that price finds that bounce, get up a little bit in the ascending profile. Sellers try to step in here, guys, bring us sort of below that range, but now buyers have stepped right back in, trying to reclaim this overall general range. Pretty much you see a drastic sell-off, and buyers really can't correct anything, guys. We just kind of hold tight here. Don't get pushed down more than that, but that's a very drastic movement. Talking about roughly from that point, around a 56%-ish movement down in a very short period of time. We're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of price action pushing us all the way down there. So we do have a lot more room to the upside than the downside, but that's a very steep sell-off, guys. So we definitely got to keep that in mind when analyzing this chart. Weekly stays pretty self-explanatory. We see a giant sell-off. We see price kind of find a bottom here, but we don't see any real good correction. Now we're going to analyze the daily, seeing if we should be expecting some sort of buyer correction here. All right, guys, now on the daily, on the past UNH videos, we've examined this pennant-like structure. So we found that bottom after that drastic sell-off, guys, right? Huge sell-off all the way down to the floor, hitting that $247 level. That's where we find a bounce. Still very volatile, but then we find some really tight price action here, guys, and buyers start winning these fights. So someone has to win, meet up with support and resistance. Buyers break out, winning that battle. Find another short descending range, and once again, buyers break out and win that battle. But this is where sellers step in, as after this, guys, we were pretty much cleared to that 339 level. But sellers do step in, bringing us back down. And at this point, buyers really cannot step in, guys. We don't see buyers retrace at that 295 support that we had. We just keep on going down, looking like we're possibly headed back to that bottom, but we do end up finding a little bit of support there, right around that 281 rough level, and we do end up bouncing up. We see a nice almost 3% day today, following up this green candle right here. But this is what should be expected, as UNH is very oversold. As we saw there, that drastic sell-off, guys, we should be seeing buyers start to step in here, right? We did see that for some time, but sellers really stepped in with that steep movement down. From that point, we got about a 13% movement down. Now we are trying to correct, but that type of movement down, especially after a very steep sell-off, guys, not a great sign right away, especially since we were building up some energy within this range. Buyers were winning these mini fights, and then we just see price crash through this ascending support that we had here, and then furthermore all the way down to that 281, getting out of this kind of choppier formation. Not a great sign, but we do see buyers step in here as well, guys. What you want to keep your eyes on is today is July 23rd, so UNH earnings are July 29th. And while profits are expected to be down given this drastic sell-off, stock always has that chance to bounce as we are quite undervalued. And otherwise than that, guys, if we can't get that bounce from earnings, right, if we can't get a nice big volatile movement up from the earnings, guys, we'll definitely be looking at more downside to come. Every time we get bad earnings doesn't mean that the stock is going to completely plummet. But if we do get very bad earnings with UNH on the 29th, wouldn't be surprised to see some downside to occur. Although we are extremely undervalued, right? Looking on the weekly one more time. See how steep and fast that sell-off was? So if earnings are relatively good, or somehow UNH price responds well through earnings, we could be seeing a pretty volatile movement up to that, ceiling of that $339 level, kind of breaking out of this little chop formation that we got going on here. We see a volatile pennant-like structure. We get tighter. Buyers are winning these battles. Sellers step in here. So we are still within this general range of that huge sell-off, guys. We haven't made much progress up since hitting that bottom, and it's still very much is a big back and forth like structure going on here. So earnings definitely give us a little bit of hope to the upside. Although if earnings are bad, guys, and the UNH price doesn't respond well with that, definitely not going to be good for the stock, as we could be retesting the bottom here, seeing if that can hold up. And furthermore, guys, if that can't hold up, we would be eyeing around that $213 level, to that 175-ish dollar level. But as of right now, from a TA perspective, you want to see buyers get in that control here, guys. Get back above that 295 level within this more tighter chop here and start to test that ceiling, guys, as the highest point we've gotten was around that 327, right? That's where we got that point where it looked like buyers were getting that control 3 green days in a row, breaking out of a low descending like structure. So if we get back up to that point, definitely looking nice for the test of 339. But if we do continue to see back and forth, guys, we could be seeing just a little bit more chop, not really doing too much before earnings come out, where we could be getting a pretty volatile move up or down. So I'm really worried about fundamentals on UNH, right? The news, the earnings report, the background, who's investing in it, because right now, from a TA perspective, all we're getting is found that obvious bottom. We were looking nice for the buyers in an ascending profile, but we broke that, and now we kind of found that bottom at 281. But we are battling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red days in a row where the sellers were in ultimate control after getting that tap of around that 327-ish level. Sellers are still in that general control as of the last couple of weeks, guys. So you definitely want to see buyers continue their run up, right? Get above that 295. Start to see that volatility and volume come in. And I could see that when earnings come out, guys, we could be seeing that UNH is quite undervalued, which could, in hindsight, give the stock a little bit of boost in price. Right, that's where we could see a nice gap up and continuation, break through that 339. But as of right now, from a TA perspective, we are still pretty bearish as we broke that ascending support. We broke that 295. We broke under that, general kind of chop consolidation range. We have just gotten back into it, but you'd really want to see price get above that 295 and hold quite strong, or see a nice volatile movement up before being short-term bullish on the stock. From a long-term perspective, I stand pretty much bullish on UNH, given that we are extremely sold off. So I still stand that there is a lot more room to the upside than the downside, and I think that earnings could be giving it the nice little boost it needs to see a little bit of upside, as we have a lot of space to cover. We have this gap to fill, we have this overall sell-off, and we have this huge gap to fill. It's about $100 gap right there. But from a TA perspective alone, nice to see that we got 2 nice green days in a row with a pretty nice wide green bar on this last day, guys. We see a little bit of buying pressure here, and buyers closed up very strongly with really little to zero top wick. So today was a good day, but you do want to see that continuation, as we've had good days. We've gotten shut down, and more recently we've had very nice few days of price action, and we get really shut down about 13%. So we'll have to see what price does. Keep your eyes and ears on the earnings of July 29th. Now, analyzing the hourly chart, guys, we see just what happens. So we got that nice movement up, looking like we're going to break through this range and test that 339, but that's where sellers step in. As we hit that $326.45 level, and sellers just really rip this thing down, recorrecting this entire movement up. Buyers try to regain that ascending support for a little bit, but we continue our move down with a gap down and continuation all the way down to the floor, hitting that 280 point. That's where we find a little bit of a bottom, right? Holding up pretty strong there. So try to push us back under that, hold up strong, and then we make a slight higher low, and now we ascend. So from the hourly perspective, looking nice to get back above that 295, as that's an obvious support slash a little bit of resistance level. So within the next day or two, guys, I think we have a nice little target of 295. Reclaim that, then we'd be back in this general choppier zone here. That's what I got my eyes on the hourly. If we do reject at that 295, looks like we are headed for more continuation to the downside. But given that hard, 13% movement down over the last week or so, definitely do see, us breaking over that 295, trying to get up higher, see what we can do, see if price can hold up and start trending to that 317, or if sellers are going to try to pull it back. But in the shorter term, I think we do make it over that 295. If bears getting that control, watch for that rejection and that retrace back down to the floor of 281, seeing if that can hold up again. But I like how we look here, given that this support seemed to hold up pretty nicely and should be trending to that 295 and over that. All right, guys, so that's all I got for UNH. From a TA perspective, there's not a ton to say about the stock, right? We are very sold off, and in the last videos, guys, of UNH, we've touched up on how beat up this stock is, and we saw that nice ascending profile. Sellers pushed it down under that general range. Now we're seeing a possible reclaim of that range and continuation. We do have an earning report within 7 days of time, guys, so that's going to be our main focus, seeing how that affects price either in a positive or negative way. So from the very short term, as far as getting over that 295 level, I am bullish. I think that we do reclaim that level and get over it and see what price can do from there. And from the extremely long-term perspective, I'd say I am bullish as well, given how earnings go, right? If earnings are really bad, we still do have some room to fall, but we've seen a very drastic, quick sell-off. So I do think that we are looking a little bit better to the upside than the downside at this point. Now, let me know your price predictions in the comments below, both short and long term. If you guys want to see me continue to cover UNH, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, trade smart, and I'll see you all in the next one.